Hey, everybody, we're going to talk about creating or buying actions in Photoshop and the dangers.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. No, Will
Okay,
Robinson.
okay. The
Danger.
dangers in buying or creating your own actions. Plus, we're going to take a look at what are setup actions that I was taught to do years ago. Are we ready for this? Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to the channel, this is dedicated to photography and as a photo artist and pushing ourselves to think creatively, literally out of the box. With that out of the way, let's take a look at our program and what we're going to cover today. And I had a few emails that came in asking me, do I ever create or buy actions? So I want to talk a little bit about that first before I get into how to create your own. And let's talk about the dangers of creating very sophisticated actions, or you're buying actions from some other third party out there and putting it into Photoshop. And then here's the danger in that. Unfortunately, and it's just the way it is, Adobe constantly changes, and who knows when that happens. It might be a couple times a year, it might be once a year, if that, but they change the procedures of how their program works. So a lot of times actions, and I hear this from you people, actions that you've purchased in the past no longer work. And the reason, and you're getting errors. And the reason is because they changed, Adobe did, their methodology on how things were processed and done in Photoshop. And if that third party you bought it from doesn't offer an update, well, guess what? You're stuck with something that doesn't work anymore. So, that's the danger. Now, basic stuff you won't have a problem with. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. And that is how to actually create what's called setup actions. And I've got setup actions I've created years ago, and there's no problem. They work really fine on the current update. So I'm going to show you how to do that and what setup actions are. But just be careful about if you decide to buy actions that people sell that do a really cool special effect, and it just zips through a lot of steps. And it's great. But again, how long will it work? And I can't answer that because Adobe does these things, and it aggravates people now that they have to hunt down who they bought it from. Are you going to make an update to this to make it work? And all that kind of stuff. And a lot of times people that make these actions got so frustrated that they don't even want to get involved in doing it anymore. So just a little caution of danger there. So let's talk about what are setup actions. And I'm going to do a couple elementary ones here to show you what it is. But basically, it's to help you save time. So jumping into Photoshop here, I'm using the beta version of Photoshop. I could have used the updated version, but I don't want you to confuse with actions that you see in the dialog box. And I don't want to delete ones that I've made and then have to, reactivate or rebuild them again. So we're just assuming that you have basically the default actions in Photoshop. So an example, when you're in Photoshop, if you don't know where the action panel is, and a lot of times it's already preloaded, but over here with this, say, sideways triangle, that is the action dialog box. To get that, if you don't have it, go to Windows drop-down menu over here in the program. So when you go to Windows drop-down menu and you come down to actions. So you'll see actions right there. Click on that, and that will open up your actions panel for you. Now, you have some default actions right here that come with the program. That's why I wanted this to be fresh. So you're seeing what you get when you install Photoshop for the first time. And now, and again, you might want to look at these. Some of these are pretty cool. Most of them are pretty lame. But not bad as a starter to take a look at what they've created for you. But we want to create our own. So here's what we do. First of all, I want to create my own custom set. So down here, you'll see a folder icon. And so I'm going to click on that, and it's going to ask me to give it a name. I'm just going to call it, we'll just call it my set. I accept that. You click on OK. And it creates a folder here called my set. Now, with that done, if I come down here and I'll just share with you before I record the action, I get tired of doing this. I do a lot of work with other photographers who send me images to either fix something or add an effect that they just don't know how to do, say in Photoshop. So I got tired of doing this. I open up, say, client's image. So I'm just going to just choose this image here as an example. And I don't want to mess it up. And so what I want to do is go to my image drop-down menu over here in Photoshop and choose duplicate. And then as soon as I do that, you'll notice that it picks up Jazz-Performer. That's the actual name of the file here, but it added the name copy on that. And this is really important to remember when I create an action, because I could change the name right now to be something different, but I'm going to leave it alone, and I'll talk about why I should leave it alone a little bit later. I'm going to click on OK to accept this. And what it just did was it created a copy here for me, and then I could close out of the original, and that way I can play with the copy or duplicate and not worried about if it, if I screwed it up or damaged the image or whatever, because I'm not working on that original. Well, I don't want to walk through all those steps. I would love to create what's called a setup action to set this up for me and just hit one keystroke and bam, I'm done. Now, this is very basic, but I'll talk about, I'll do a little bit more creative action after this, and then I'll talk about other actions I have used for setups and how they work to save time for me in my workflow. But now that I understand, okay, how to do this, let me close out of this. And let me show you how to create the action now. So what you do is open up the image. And again, to create the action, I need to have some kind of image to work with. Okay, and then I had created the My Set. That's what I'm going to create a couple actions here for you. And I want them saved in that particular folder just to keep things organized. Okay, with that out of the way, there is a button down here in Photoshop to actually record a new action, and that's this little plus right here. So when you choose the plus icon here in the bottom of the panel of actions, it'll ask you to, what do you want to call this name or name the action? And I'm just call it dupe. I'm just going to shorten it for duplicate. And notice that it's going to record that and save it in the My Set folder. Now, if I made a mistake and go, oh, I really didn't want it to go there, I could actually go to the drop-down menu here and say, I need to put it into the default actions. So now when I save this action, it'll actually save it over here under the default area. And I don't want it to be there. So let's go to My Set, and it will record that into the My Set folder over here. Okay, so with that done, I want to attach a keystroke to this. And I want to talk about keystrokes here for a moment. F2. F2 is just to, again, duplicate that image for me. If I had used F2 with another action, then it knows that it needs to do F2 and it'll activate Shift. So now I have two keys I have to worry about, Shift F2. If Shift F2 was used along with F2, then it knows to use F2 Control. And if you use that, guess what it's going to be? Shift Control F2. Yeah, and this or Shift Command F2 on a Mac, and I could barely remember two keystrokes. So I need things simple. So it's one keystroke for me on that, and that's going to be F2. Now I click on the record button right here, and you get this warning. I don't know why. This is something that's fairly new, but I'm going to just ignore that. We never used to get that in earlier versions of Photoshop. Now it's like turning a tape recorder on. And now I'm just going to walk through my steps carefully without making a mistake, because if you make a mistake, you're recording your mistakes. So this is simple. I'm just going to the image drop-down menu, and I am choosing duplicate, and it pulls up this. Now I want to talk about this for a moment. I could go in here and rename this to whatever I want it to be, and then click on OK. The problem in doing that is every time I run this action on other images, it will be that name. And I probably don't want that name, like if it's the client name or whatever. So what I'm doing is I'm going to leave this alone, and that way it automatically knows to pick up the original name and add the word copy to that. Now we'll see that in a few minutes. So I'm going to leave that alone and just click on OK. And then there is my duplicate copy. Now I need to turn off the tape recorder. So I come over here and you hit what's called the stop button. And I click on that and I just stopped recording that, say, video, if you want to call it, but stop recording the action. So it's like turning, again, the concept is turning a tape recorder on, record my steps, and then close out. Now, setup actions are real simple. You might find that other things you do a little bit more creative than that, all of a sudden the action doesn't work, and you got to figure out a workaround to make that action work. And that gets to a point where I'm not, an expert at that. I don't claim to be. And I'm not an expert to troubleshoot somebody who bought an action that's got a whole bunch of steps and now it doesn't work and it comes up with an error. Could you please figure out, how to fix that? That's not me. I'm not that type of person. I just do basic setup because time is money for me, and I create setup actions, and those I've never had a problem with. So let's test this right now. So I'm going to close out of this and just show you. Close out of that. I'm going to close out of the existing one again. And then if I open up the image, okay, and I do F2 on the keyboard, there it is, and it says Jazz Performer Copy. Okay, so let me close out of that and the other one, and let me open up a different image. So I'll open up this image, which is, the name of this is a Saloon in Town. Okay, if I do F2, again, notice it says over here on the tab, Saloon in Town, and they added the word copy. So my point is, the first time I created this action, if I overrode the name and typed in like Bill or something like that, because maybe that's the name of the client, that's what it's recording, me typing the word Bill. So if I duplicate this one right here, it's going to put the word Bill in there as the name of the file, which forces me to rename this as a different name. So that's why I just leave it blank when I'm recording that. When it's asking for a name, just leave it alone, and it knows what to do. It always adds the name copy to the file name, the duplicate copy. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so with that out of the way, let me close out and just show you, and we're going to create one that's a little bit more sophisticated. So I'm going to close out of that, and let's get rid of this one right here. Okay, so here is the action that we just recorded called dupe. I can compact that down. This does not have to be open. In fact, to run this could be closed. And it doesn't, it just knows if you hit F2, it's going to run that action once you have an image open up. Okay, so let's create another action. So here's what I'm tired of doing. And let me just open up this one here. Let's move this to the side a little bit so we can see this. Whoops, sorry about that. All right, so here's what I'm tired of doing. And again, this is an example of a setup action. When I do dodging and burning, one of my favorite methods is using curves. And here's what I'm tired of doing. If I go over here to the adjustment layer, this is the Oreo cookie dipped in milk, and I choose curves. And again, there's different ways of doing dodging and burning, but this is one of my favorite ways. And so I'm going to pull this down. That will record, or pull it up, doesn't matter. This is for dodging, that's for burning. So let me pull this up. So that will be for dodging. And then what I want to do is I'm going to change the blending mode here to luminosity. Luminosity has a smaller effect on colors. It's just dealing with the brightness of the image. It's not going to oversaturate the colors as much as if I left it normal. So I'm going to do that right there. And then I'm going to invert this. So Control I, Command I is inverting this. I'm hiding this. Remember, on the mask, black conceals, right? The effect. White reveals, black conceals. Now I want to duplicate this layer. So Control J or Command J on a Mac. And then I'm going to go to this one at the very top, and I need to move this in the opposite direction. So that's going to be my burn layer. So I'm going to double click here, type in the word burn, and then I'm going to come over here and type in the word, well, we'll just call it light. You just put in light and whatever. Okay, so that's a lot of work. And now I get in there and start dodging and burning. Well, hey, people, I don't want to do that. I just want to hit one key on my keyboard and bam, let's get to work. So I have to know the steps first to record. So let me just get rid of all this stuff. So we're going to delete all that. throw this in the garbage. And then let's actually create the action to do this. So again, just make sure my panel is open up over here. I'm going to click on the My Set right here folder. Doesn't have to be open. And I'm going to come down here to say, let's create a new action. So when I click on this, the name I'm going to give it will be, I'll just call it D and B for dodge and burn. It's in the My Set folder, and I'm going to use F3. Let's do F2. You can see how it added shift to that, but I don't want to do that. I want F3. So let me turn the shift off because again, I have not used F3 in this beta version before, and it would be available in your updated version of Photoshop if you've never created an action or purchased something that used the shortcut F3. Okay, so with that done, I'm going to click on turning on my tape recorder, and that's record right here. Okay, so that is, again, to get that warning, just ignore the warning. And then now let's walk through the steps. So I'm going to hide this so I can see my layers panel. And what's the first thing I did? Well, I came down here to the Oreo cookie dipped in milk and walked through the same steps again. We're going to go to curves, and I'll try to do this as fast as possible. I'm going to bump that up a bit like that for lighting up. And then, excuse me, I'm going to change the blend mode to luminosity. Control I, Command I to invert my mask. Now I'm going to duplicate, Control J, Command J. I'm going to go to the very top one right here. Click on this so I can push this in the opposite direction, because the one below it is for dodging. This one is for burn. So I'll just call this my burn layer. So burn. Yeah, and I don't know why I called it lighten before. This really is, the technique here is dodging, so it would be dodge. Okay, so I'm finished with that, and I'm going to make sure that my brush, B for brush, if it was something different, if I tap on B, it should automatically go to my brush, and I have mine set to 30%. If not, just tap on 3 to make it 30%. At least that's what I like to use when I'm dodging and burning. Okay, so with that done, I'm just going to stop recording. So what do? Well, I go back over here to the panel to open that up and hit the stop button, say stop recording my action. Okay, finished. So I'm going to compact that. So now you can see I have two actions here, my dupe and my dodge and burn one, all contained in the My Set folder. I can close out of the panel, don't need that anymore. And now if I'm working on an image and I hit F3 on my keyboard, there we go, all set, ready to go. And again, just to prove that if I go to the open dialog box here and grab another image, doesn't matter what it is, and if I hit F3, there it is, all set up for me, ready to go. So let me close out of this one just quickly. If you missed some of my past videos on maybe dodging and burning, I'm going to be on the mask here. This is for dodging. So with my paintbrush at 30%, and I'm painting in white, I can see my chip colors here on the left side is white. Okay, so I'm just going to go over here, and I'm just going to highlight certain areas, just drag over certain spots I want to lighten up. And again, it might be very subtle on the YouTube channel, but I'm just now I'm not going to do everything here. I just want to show you that something is happening, and I'm lighting up certain areas. So if I turn this on and off, you can see the change of that. So that's dodging. Burning, I just go to the next layer above, and again, click on that, and I'm painting in white again, and I'm going to go over the areas that are on the dark side. If I want to deepen that up, it's up to me. In fact, you know what? You'll see a little bit of darkness there, or dodging, or burning, I should say. So there's my burning. But let me go back to dodge, and maybe I really want to pump up these lights over here. So I'm going to go in this area and just dodge in that area based on my liking. Maybe, dodge in some of these lights. And so you can see the before and after on this. So there's before, after, before, after. So again, that's creating what's called a setup action. It just saves me time. I don't want to manually go through this all the time. I need to do dodging and burning, which I do a lot on my images, especially finished projects for clients. The other thing is to go even further. I'm not going to do it because it's going to take time, but when I teach compositing 101, well, one of the things that we do is we walk through and do a minimum of 4 adjustment layers that are used in compositing 101. Well, the last thing I want to do is constantly pull up and activate those 4. So what I do is I just create an action. So when I'm ready to use that, when I'm doing compositing, I just hit F4 on my keyboard and bam, everything comes in, set up. Now let's get busy. Let's get to work. And this is really important to me because when I'm doing a lot of client work or I'm doing stuff for, like I shot 21 kids and it's for a 4x6 banner for a high school for the cheerleaders. I'm going through production and I need to do, the dodging and burning, and I want to do the composite work. I need to set this up fast and walk through this. I don't have time to sit there and manually do it over and over and over again. So I do it manually when I teach the class on compositing because I have to explain why we are using these particular adjustment layers. But again, hopefully this makes sense. This is called setup actions. They're very basic. It's like turning a tape recorder on and then turning it off. And all my setup stuff I've done years ago work in the latest, greatest version of Photoshop and even the beta version. So nothing has changed on setup. But the danger, again, is very sophisticated actions, which I'm not an expert at creating, so I don't even go there on that. But I know people like to buy those kind of things, and what annoys them is the fact that all of a sudden now they don't work because Adobe changed their methodology in their update of Photoshop and stuff. So that's just the nature of the beast. So just be aware of that. Okay, so hopefully you learned something. If you could do me a favor, if something was confusing and didn't make sense, email address is right here. Again, I want to thank people that are contributing to help out the channel because, again, this is not monetized at buymeacoffee.com/Stephen Photo Artist. The links will be in the description of the show notes. Okay, so with that out of the way, if you haven't, joined the group here and that, please like the video, subscribe if you have not subscribed, and hit that notification bell. Next time I upload a video, you'll get notified. All right, with that, till next time, see ya.